Hello garden friends, thanks for taking time out of your garden to come visit mine. I must warn you though, as always, it's a disaster. I've got season extenders stacked up over here, pots everywhere. It's been frantic trying to get everything planted. You know, the garden's for you. If you want a nice formal garden, do it. That's just not for me. I learned a long time ago, at least for me, get done what you can get done and just enjoy your time in the garden. Now we've got lots of work to do and lots of things to show you today. All right, let's get to work. Follow me. I already have some cucumbers going in another bed, but I went to a local nursery, Bedner's Farm and Greenhouse, and I saw these and I had to get them because these are much further along than mine. Mine are about an inch tall. And so whenever we're planting anything, we're always adding compost. This bed has just been filled with compost. Compost gives the plants everything they need. During all my videos, you're going to hear me talk a lot about compost and a lot about improving the soil. And so cucumbers, for the most part, they don't like to be transplanted, but instead of starting from seed, you're starting with a huge one like that. And so we're just going to go for it, and it'll set them back a little bit. But we picked the perfect day for planting. We're dodging raindrops. There's rain on the way. We're trying to get the video done before we get poured on. And so we're going to get these in the ground. It's pretty simple. And you can see these roots. This thing's ready to go, and there's no need to do anything there. That would set them back even further if you had to do that. All right. This is a variety called homemade pickles, one I love, although I don't make pickles. All right, now I am not planting everything. I've got these and a few left there, and that's an important part of growing a lot of the vegetables that I grow. It's called succession planting. And so with cucumbers, they can get something called bacterial wilt, where they'll be growing fine. One day they'll come out, they're just wilted. No matter how much water you put on them, they don't come back. They've been infected with that disease by a thing called a cucumber beetle. And so we'll plant some now, and this might be on the beetle cycle, we'll see. But then we'll wait a week, wait 2 weeks, keep these watered, and plant a few more. Now next week, we're gonna build a nice trellis here so these can grow up. Because if I don't, with the size of these plants and how good they look, they're gonna take over the garden. All right, next I wanna show you how to plant a real leggy tomato like this. And I got a little trick for you. Whoops, I forgot to mulch. I always like to put straw around these plants. This is a great way to preserve all this moisture we're getting. You know, normally I would water these in pretty good, but I know rain's on the way. If it doesn't come the way I think it's gonna, I'll come out and do a little bit of watering. Normally, I'm watering as I'm planting, but we had so much rain last night, this will work. This also keeps weeds down. All right, on to the tomatoes. Okay, more compost for our tomato trick. Humidity is about 90%, so this is fun. So the trick is called horizontal planting for tomatoes. You can do it with any kind of tomato, but when they're leggy like this, it's been in the greenhouse too long and it's starting to stretch, this is the best way to plant them. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a little trench here in the compost and then remove these bottom leaves. And when I remove these bottom leaves, this entire stem, when it's in that trench, will become roots. The roots will be close to warmth, which tomatoes love, and water when we put on water. So we'll just snip them off and get the rest of them. Cover this all up with compost, and this top of the plant will stand up on its own in about a day. But it's important to put that cage or stake on now, otherwise you might drive that stake, if you do it tomorrow or the next day, forget where that stem is, and drive that stake right through that. I've had friends do that. All right, so let's get the cage on it, and then I have got one more tomato trick for you before we leave the vegetable garden. I make these cages out of concrete reinforcing wire, and I love them, use them every year, and push the stake down in here, because eventually that tomato is going to be big enough that it could bring down the cage. All right, let's take a look at another tomato trick to get the first tomatoes of the year. Can't wait for you to see this in about 2 weeks. I'll be filling this thing up. It's fun to get your hands dirty, and my favorite garden jeans are getting a workout for sure. Now, you want the first tomatoes of the year? Cheat! I got this plant like a month and a half ago from Bedner's Farm and Greenhouse. I've had it in the greenhouse, and it's filled with tomatoes. I'll plant it next. Let me introduce you to my favorite basil. This is called Everleaf Emerald Towers. Doesn't that name just roll off the tongue? Not the greatest name, but it is the greatest basil. One thing about it, it's bred to be basil downy mildew resistant. It rarely flowers. It grows in this column-like, as you can see, that's the towers part. And best of all, it has this wonderful texture and it tastes great. When basil flowers, the flavor changes. It doesn't mean that it's bad, but it's different. And so oftentimes I'm starting with one basil, it flowers, I'll plant another one, but in the case of this, all I gotta do is plant this once. I love it, you should grow it. Now, these are the straw bales I use to cover up that fig tree. Next week, we're gonna show you how to actually plant in the straw bales. We don't wanna waste them, do we? Now it's time for Talking Trees from the Davey Tree Expert Company. I'm joined by Rob Kruljac. He's the Assistant District Manager of the North Pittsburgh office for the Davey Tree Expert Company. How are you, Rob?
Doing well, Doug. Thanks for having me to your garden.
I want to find out everything you know about native trees. And first off, what is a native tree?
I guess that's kind of who you asked, Doug. You know, it depends on how long you've been around. After the glaciers came down and wiped everything off of, the north up to the Great Lakes, the first stuff that came down and started growing again probably wasn't native to what there was before.
So when you're thinking about putting natives into landscape, what are you looking at as far as period-wise? Stuff that was here before?
Last 100 years or so. Right. It's important to do the natives. It's good environment and habitat for our birds, our insects, and some like lichens and fungus that have adapted, and it's part of the whole bigger system of just the ecology. Trees and shrubs that have been growing in this climate are used to this area, so they do better than, say, bringing stock up from Georgia or from Seattle, Washington that may not do as well here. There's some important things to having native trees in our landscape.
So some favorite natives to put in. Now I know, right tree, right place, but let's generalize a couple cool natives that you like to put in.
I'd like to see some more nut trees out there. Hickories are good. I'm just thinking of the things we don't typically plant. Some hickory, some black gum.
Stop right there.
Yes.
Black gum.
Yes.
Every time I talk to an arborist, black gum comes up. Why?
It's a great tree. Great fall color. That's probably my favorite part about it. It has the form of an oak tree, but a brilliant, brilliant red fall color that I really enjoy.
All right, so continue from black gum.
So black gum, but then thinking about some understory trees, you just see lately an overplanting of serviceberry and redbud. It seems to be like the two most popular understory trees.
Serviceberry,
yeah,
but no redbud.
No, but redbud. but there's a lot of others out there that could be planted in those types of environments in your property.
So we're standing in front of something, and I'm not sure if I should feel guilty about it. This is an autumn.
I'm not judging.
Okay, this is an autumn olive.
Yes.
It's my wife's favorite tree for its fragrance. Then it has edible berries, but it's technically an invasive.
Right.
How should I feel about that? Should I be guilty?
No. I wouldn't feel guilty because at the rate that we're losing canopy in around the world or even in our area today, every tree is helpful. So, not letting it proliferate and spread throughout your property would be a good idea, but the benefits of a tree nonetheless are still good.
So, and behind me,
yes,
Dawn Redwood, I consider it the premier tree on the property, but it's not a native either.
It's not a native as well, but this is a hated type of specimen that people see, oh my gosh, you can't have a Russian olive. Meanwhile, if you have a metasequoia like that, it is a premier tree on most any property.
So tell me about the season in general. I would say it's kind of a wet season.
It's been a little damp, yeah, throughout.
I think we're getting a little damp.
We are. It's made planting quite muddy, and our treatments for our sprays and our other things kind of slow down, so we're not getting out as much as we'd like to.
All right, before we run inside.
Yes.
Is this a good time to plant trees?
It is. We're going to try to keep planting here up until June. As long as you take care of the tree, you can plant them all year long, but spring and fall are the best times. Fall is my favorite time to plant. The trees are going dormant. They can get a good start in the spring when we have this type of weather almost weekly.
All right, Rob, let's get inside.
All right,
Follow
great.
me.
Thanks, Doug.
Well, the timing of the rain might not have been right for our interview, but it certainly was right for everything that we planted before you got here. It's all watered.
Yes.
And I got to assume that the trees are going to be happy with that rain. But how do I know when my tree should be watered? Newly planted is most important, right?
Correct. Yeah. Newly planted trees need watered just about every day, unless we have a nice, drenching rain like we just did. Then you could probably skip a day or two. But to really know, you have to get in there. Pull your mulch back. Get your fingers in that soil. You want to be able to form a ball of soil that, if you squeeze it, you don't want water to come out. That's too much water, and too much water is just as bad as not enough. So you don't want water to come out of a handful, but also you don't want it to just crumble in your hands like dust. So somewhere in the middle. So when we're watering new trees especially, get your hose out, 15-20 minutes of a slow trickle. Just let the water run out around that critical root zone right around the base of the tree, and let it just saturate in, and then that's a good soaking for that day.
Tell me how wonderful my Dawn Redwood is.
It's pretty impressive.
How tall?
I'd like to say 100, easy. Yeah, I'm looking at it from back there.
Is it done? Done growing?
No, that's the great part. And in water for an older tree, older established trees in your landscape, they've been used to droughts and too much rain and everything, so you don't have to be as worried about those. But even with your older mature trees, water is one of the cheapest plant healthcare products you can buy, because every tree plant still needs water in extreme drought situations.
Since I have you here, I'm not letting you go until we cover one more topic,
Yeah.
and we can see it from here, but they can't.
Yep.
Let's walk over.
Okay.
All right, tell me what we're looking at here, because I think people usually see this and they get scared.
Yeah, we get a few phone calls a year, if not a dozen, of, oh my gosh, something's going on with my tree. There's this green stuff all over the base of it. What's going on? This is lichen. It's a symbiotic relationship between the tree and the algae. It's where it lives. It's completely unharmless to the tree itself. So nothing to worry about. It can look aggressive, and in different times of the year, different wet seasons versus dry seasons, it could be really aggressive and blow up all over. Other times it can be kind of sparse. So when it really blooms is when people start calling in and worrying that there's something wrong with their trees.
Good stuff. Thanks for braving the rain. Next time
No
we'll
problem.
have better weather. I'll order it.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right,
Yeah.
thanks a lot. That was great stuff by Rob. Thanks so much for coming to visit the garden. I hope you're having a great season. Please click the like button and subscribe. That's just how YouTube analytics work, and I'd appreciate it. Until next week, stay dry, keep planting, and we'll see you then.